Okay. Begin with a bow. So welcome again to everyone to the Buddhist Path of Awakening course on Francesca Fremantle's book, Luminous Emptiness. We're going to be talking tonight about another of the visions that occur in the Bardo after the appearance of the peaceful deities. As she says in the beginning of this chapter, titled Crazy Wisdom, after the peaceful deities have dissolved back into luminous emptiness, they emerge again in a new form as the five Vidyadharas with their consorts, the five Dakinis. So to say that the peaceful deities dissolve back into luminous emptiness is really to say they dissolve back into the nature of our minds. So again, if at any point in the Bardo we're actually able to fully realize what we're experiencing, we're able to see that what we're experiencing is none other than the awakened nature of our mind, then further Bardo appearances don't occur. At that point, we're awake. But what happens as we progress through the Bardos and fail to recognize is that the forms become increasingly more active, energetic, forceful, which we'll really see in the next set of readings about the wrathful deities. So, as Trungpa Rinpoche says in his commentary, the Vidyadharas, the five Vidyadharas, are not really peaceful or wrathful. And so they're not always counted as part of the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities. And as Francesca Fremantle notes, depending on how the deities are depicted in paintings, sometimes they're shown when all 100 deities are shown, but when only the peaceful or only the wrathful deities are shown, they may or may not be shown, or they may be some may be shown, or not at all. So the five Vidyadharas and their consorts, the five Dakinis, are connected with speech, and whereas the peaceful deities emerge from the heart center, connected with mind, the five Vidyadharas emerge from the heart center and appear before us. As she says in this chapter, they're the expressive, communicative energy of the awakened state. Her next sentence is interesting. As we have been too oblivious or too frightened to respond to the deities in their peaceful manifestations, or too frightened to respond, they now display a different aspect, singing and dancing to attract our attention, inviting and seducing us into waking up. So oblivious or frightened is in fact how we spend a great deal of our lives in our current state, where we're often ignorant and at other times quite frightened of open space, experience of emptiness, clear vivid quality of luminous emptiness. So that it's really not different from what we experience in our daily life. And the idea that the manifestation of mind, now first is the peaceful deities that are brilliant but invincible peacefulness, absolutely immovable. Now we have, again, a quality of mind that's a bit more active, energetic, passionate, communicative, that begins to express itself. And the idea, and this, as to the degree that I understand it, is pretty pervasive in Dzogchen, is that the true nature of mind, the awakened quality of mind, is always trying to express itself, is always trying to become manifest. It's always trying to wake us up fully. And you'll see that throughout, I think, throughout this chapter, that, that quality of mind that is always trying to wake us up fully, to recognize itself fully. So again, the five Vidyadharas and their consorts, the five Dakinis, so they're always shown in union. Again, are connected with the communicative quality, and for that reason they emerge from the throat center. And as we'll see in a little bit, she talks a great deal about their communication being more symbolic, that it's not the kind of communication that would be expressed simply in words or logical thought, but something that's much more direct and much more immediate. And we'll have a lot of examples of that as we go through the chapter. But first she gives us some background on what the meaning of Vidyadhara and Dakini is, so we'll cover that first. So she says that Vidyadhara literally translates as holder of spiritual knowledge. Dhara means holder. It's the same root as dharma, actually. And Vidya, she translates as awake or spiritual knowledge. But when she calls Vidya awareness, she's really talking about awareness in its fullest sense. As she says, she actually had presented something about this in a previous chapter. So I'm going to quote a little bit from that chapter, just to try to make this clear. As she says in chapter 10, a significant term in Dzogchen is awareness, which is Rigpa in Tibetan or Vidya in Sanskrit. Vidya has the root meaning of to see, seeing in Sanskrit. That this is the ultimate nature of mind. It's a synonym for the awakened state. It is knowing as a state of being, a direct and personal experience that gives one complete certainty and confidence. So it's unobscured, omniscient, and all-pervading awareness that can't be limited in any way. So it's not, although we have glimpses and flashes of this in our meditation practice, it's really the full expression of what we just see in glimpses and flashes. Or another way to put it is that it's awareness that's fully unobscured, fully uncovered, fully unhindered by any of by the bondage of ego, I guess you could say. And again, she says that it's this Rigpa, Vidya, awareness, is mind's primordial intrinsic capacity for recognition, for knowing the real nature of things before ignorance and confusion ever arise. It's beyond thought, it's free from thought processes, which is another way of saying it's free from the distinction between mind and its objects or any kind of duality. And as she says, it's been at times translated in different ways, sometimes as insight or intelligence, but awareness. She likes the word awareness for this because it really conveys the sense of awakened presence as well as knowing. So in Indian mythology, she says, the Vidyadharas were powerful winged celestial beings. But the term actually has a lot of different applications. The term may also refer to highly realized human beings, such as great teachers and siddhas. Trungpa Rinpoche was called a Vidyadhara. It applies also to the great siddhas, accomplished yogins and yoginis who've attained supernatural powers. And they possess the vidya of supreme awareness. So again, it's awareness in its fullest, unobstructed, absolutely vividly clear sense. The direct experience of the ultimate nature of mind, but also can also refer to manifestations in its relative sense, so that Vidyadharas can be, as she says, great scientists, artists, lovers, warriors, but above all, magicians. There's a real magical quality to awareness, having to do with the complete sense of presence, being completely present, so that whatever energies and possibilities there are in situations, they are worked with in the most skillfully possible way. She also says that Vidya awareness is associated with mantra or sound as the creative and communicative power of the awakened state. Trungpa Rinpoche says in his commentary in the Book of the Dead, it's actually fairly short, his piece on this particular day of the Bardo, the presence of the Vidyadharas and Dakinis, but they represent the divine form of the Tantric Guru, possessing power over the magical aspects of the universe. So that's Vidyadhara, wisdom holder, awareness holder. They're in consort with Dakinis, or the word in Tibetan for Dakini is Khandro. And she says some things here that about the use of the word Dakini rather than Devi, but that both Devi and Dakini can represent the whole spectrum of the feminine principle, that it's Dakini is a term used for female Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, as well as worldly Dakinis, that are local deities who aren't as fully realized and need the guidance of a teacher or a guru. So that, for instance, Padmasambhava tamed Dakinis when he came to Tibet, local Dakinis. It can also refer to advanced female practitioners and to spiritual consorts. So again, the full spectrum of female. Just to say a little bit more about differences between Devi and Dakini, because they're fairly closely related, but there's some difference. Generally speaking, Devi means more of a sense of goddess, as in the Hindu sense. But Dakinis have more the sense of possessing wisdom and the power to transmute. They can be guides, teachers. They're embodiment of wisdom. In Indian mythology, Dakinis are sometimes seen as witches, human or otherwise, that be quite wild, eat flesh, drink blood. But in the Vajrayana, Dakinis are the samsaric nature, she says, is transformed, and they're fully instruments of wisdom and compassion. Dakini or Khandro literally means sky going or sky dancer. And the idea is a sense of real freedom. And again, real seduction, real blissfulness, joyfulness. Dakinis carry with them, she says, an atmosphere of power, magic, and danger. The magic and power of transmutation. The danger of letting go. They embody the whole mystery of Maya or illusion. For the feminine principle, she says, is the ultimate truth of emptiness, yet also the relative truth of the five elements and the five senses. If we're taken in by illusions, duality, ego, by illusion, that kind of illusion, then Dakinis will appear as tricksters, playful, deceptive, possibly harmful. But if we see through their facade, they guide us to enlightenment. So again, I think another way to think about this is with both the Vidyadharas and the Dakinis, we're looking at a different aspect of waking up. That the Dakinis and Vidyadharas, through their presentation, break boundaries, free us. And that they do this through a sense of play and through magic and a sense of surprise even. And as she says, the Dakinis in particular can be both creative and destructive, but they bring us messages and reminders. This will come up again when we talk about symbolism, messages and reminders. They show us our mistakes and invite us to join their dance. And this is more, again, the seductive, playful, more energetic presentation that, of this aspect of mind. She says they're guardians of the secret teachings, which are self-secret, hidden from us until we're ready to understand them through listening to the voice of the Dakini within us. So again, this is the sense of Dakini principle in us, waking us up, again, helping us to better understand. Self-secret is an interesting term because basically what it means is we could read or hear a teaching and not understand it at all, or have just a glimmer of understanding. So that it's self-secret not because of something hidden, so much as our mind isn't ready to accept it, isn't really open to it yet. Over my years of study, there have been times when I've read texts and first time through, it didn't make sense to me or just seemed particularly dry. And then I've read it again a few years later, and it's come across in a completely different way. Again, the words are the same. The self-secret aspect was my mind and how ready I was to really engage with a particular teaching. So, but this is the Dakini principle within us, as she says. We understand them through listening to the voice of the Dakinis within us. With this, she begins a section that goes on for a bit about symbolism. She says Vidyadharas and Dakinis communicate through the language of symbolism. And she says there are two aspects in the Vajrayana, the iconography of the deities and the natural symbolism of everyday life. And she says that this symbolism is not symbolism where something stands for something else. Like, for instance, the flag represents the idea of our nation. So the flag is a symbol for something else. But as Trungpa Rinpoche says, particularly in this instance, speaking about the level of realization in Mahamudra, the thing itself is its own symbol. So it's a direct connection, direct perception of seeing things exactly as they are. So the things are symbols of themselves when we are open to seeing things in that way. And when we're not, this is when these things become self-secret. So in terms of the iconography for the deities, just say that and again, I'm just breaking from the text for a moment to share a couple of my own thoughts about this. So you can take it with as many grains of salt as you might wish. But that basically, even when we begin meditation, a lot of what we discover through meditation is that we become increasingly able to recognize when we're present or when we're not. And one of the words for meditation, gom, means to become familiar. So increasingly as we meditate, we become more and more familiar with what it feels like, how we experience things when we're present, as opposed to when we're distracted, absorbed, or scattered. In an even more powerful way, the idea of visualization practice in particular in the Vajrayana is to help us become increasingly familiar directly with the true nature of mind, and to become increasingly able to recognize that experience that's actually always available to us. And again, the question is whether we recognize it or not. So the depictions of the deities, and in visualization practice, actually visualizing ourselves as a deity, there are a lot of details that are meant to connect us very directly with enlightened mind and enlightened activity. And all of the different symbolism of the deities, for instance, different crowns that they might wear as symbols of the five wisdoms, or that the deities have three eyes to represent higher perception, or if you're familiar with Tara, certain forms of Tara, it connects with compassion, that in some tankas, some paintings, depicted as eyes with eyes in the hands, representing some idea of skillful means. So that it's a way of very directly connecting with the meaning of the teachings. It's not just that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but that a picture can directly connect us with an experience or with qualities. So the idea is the iconography connects us direct reminders of qualities and experiences that we have, that we are, but that we don't recognize. So it's very important to understand that it may seem foreign in the beginning, but as we become more and more familiar with the meaning of the iconography, it becomes a very direct way of having some kind of experience, or being more able to recognize and become familiar with what these capabilities, what these possibilities are. So to return to the text, she says, Dharma is not a theory or system of beliefs imposed on reality. So we don't need symbols to point to something else. Dharma is the discovery of the meaning inherent in the world just as it is, as everything reveals the Buddha's message. So as Trungpa Rinpoche says, and this goes back to what I was trying to say before, the idea in Dzogchen in particular, that the true nature of mind, our awakened state, is always trying to express itself, always trying to recognize itself. Or as Trungpa Rinpoche says, the universe is constantly trying to reach us to say something, teach us something, but we're rejecting it all the time. And we reject it because we get lost in ego. We get caught up in the dramas of ego. So the natural symbolism is that's iconography of the deities, which we'll actually come back to, but then the natural symbolism of everyday life. The idea here is that everything we experience, every sense perception, every thought, every emotion could wake us up. And that, for instance, the different elements have qualities that we could connect immediately with the awakened nature of mind. That fire, for instance, exemplifies wisdom, clarity, and the warmth of compassion. That water represents diligence. That earth carries and nurtures everything, accommodates everything, so that everything becomes a direct experience of the teachings. Or as Trungpa Rinpoche says in the Sadhana of Mahamudra, when the current of thoughts is self-liberated and the essence of Dharma is known, everything is understood, and apparent phenomena are all the books one needs. So when we have that experience, when we have moments where that becomes clear to us, that is the natural symbolism of everyday life. Or as she says in this text, we only need to open our eyes and our minds, and the way to do that is through meditation, not necessarily on the deities, which comes later, both in real life and also in this text, But first and foremost, the meditation of letting go, which allows us to experience our world more completely with greater clarity and precision. And she quotes William Blake, the great romantic poet. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. For man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks of his cavern. So again, the letting go is letting go of ego, letting go of our solidification of things in thoughts and concepts and labels, letting go of preconceptions, and just, again, direct, immediate experience of things as they are. She says the symbolism of Vajrayana is based on the ultimate meaning of emptiness, and quotes the Heart Sutra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. And the point that she's making is that form is not fixed. Things are constantly in change. Things are constantly in flux. Our ideas of things are fixed, but things in reality are not. That there's impermanence, and because of interdependence, there's constant change, constant process, constant kinetic activity. Concepts, names, and labels are fixed, and that's what we're letting go of. Letting go of our tendency to repeat the past and the present, to repeat our preconceptions moment after moment. So as she says, form, if we're open to it, if we cleanse the doors of perception, form is constantly revealing its empty essence, yet emptiness also unceasingly manifests as form, displaying the entire phenomenal universe in its state of natural purity. So again, that constant change, when we're actually present, when we actually see things in the moment, as opposed to being caught up in our concepts and ideas, we see that there's constant change, constant change in our minds, constant change in the world around us. And this is because of impermanence and because of the interdependent nature of all things, the constant interplay of causes and conditions. And that this awareness of appearance as form and emptiness, that there is no solid core to things, no unchanged, things are in constant change. The awareness of appearance, emptiness linked together inseparably is the Mahamudra. She says that appreciation of this kind of symbolism, again, things standing for themselves, direct perception of things as they are, not fixed, not solidified. Appreciation of this kind of symbolism depends on developing a real sense of the presence of enlightened qualities, which is quite simply what the deities are. Which also sounds very much like a line from the Sadhana Mahamudra. And allowing them to awaken within us. It's a process of opening up our vision, not projecting our imagination onto the external world. So we begin by letting go, but at this point she's talking about more of a Vipassana experience. Again, awakening, seeing, a process of opening up our vision, not projecting our imagination to the external world. And she says, as we work with the imagery of the creation stage in deity yoga, so here she is talking about visualization practice, we gradually come to experience the meaning of the deities directly without conceptual thought. Instead of imagining them, we feel the actual presence of their nature. I would say though, what that involves is intensive practice, retreat practice, where we actually begin to really make a connection that, and at least begin to have some glimpse that this really is expressing something more true, more real than what we ordinarily take to be reality. In any case, in our ordinary state, as she says, the ego or watcher sits at the center of our experience like a spider, paralyzing everything that falls into its web. We project ourselves into the world, as Trungpa Rinpoche says. Everything is me all over the place. In other words, we solidify space, rather than seeing things in their true nature as empty, free, changing, fluid. We solidify. But, as she says, once the reference point of ego begins to dissolve, this is the letting go that we talked about a moment ago, we're experiencing everything in a different way. We can perceive directly from our original empty mind or non-reference point mind and become one with objects of perception, with sensations and emotions. Whatever we see, hear, touch, taste, or smell speaks to us of its own inherent nature. And she quotes from quotes Trungpa Rinpoche from his book, The Myth of Freedom. The whole world is symbol, not symbol in the sense of sign representing something other than itself, but symbol in the sense of the highlights, of the vivid qualities of things as they are. And she connects this, and again, this is an aspect of visualization practice, with mandala principle, which she says is a bridge between ordinary perception and sacred vision, in which everything is seen as the mandala of the awakened state. And the idea is that in this practice, the whole environment is seen as a pure land, and all sentient beings within are seen as deities, and that everything that's perceived, everything you see here, smell, taste, touch, is all an aspect of awakened mind. So she asks, how can we begin to get a feel for Vajrayana imagery? She says the first thing is to realize we live in a world of symbols, that numbers and words are symbols, and we can appreciate these as they are and learn to appreciate through this something of the iconographical symbolism of the deities. Again, it doesn't need to be special. The idea is that the iconography of the deities is meant to help us recognize, help us identify with, help us become familiar with awakened quality of mind. She talks about colors as symbols, that for instance, white as purification in Vajrasattva practice, so that seeing white reminds us of intrinsic purity and the unstained nature of primordial mind. Different color, blue, so since Vajradhara is depicted as blue. Blue connects with the idea of Dharmakaya, sky, just vast open space. So the colors communicate something to us. The colors have symbolic meaning. And she says events can be symbols, that everything that happens to us carries a message if we're open to hearing it, as opposed to feeling resentful or fearful or hopeful. And she says this is like the Dharma protectors or guardians of the gates that we talked about last week. We get a ticket when we become too speedy, or we find ourselves embarrassed when we get too puffed up and arrogant. That these are warnings that we're going off the path. And again, she says this isn't intellectual, but this kind of symbolism, this kind of direct experience, direct perception, bypasses the thinking mind. And she says we need to develop sensitivity so that there's an immediate intuitive recognition of the messages. Again, otherwise these messages are self-secret because, again, we're caught up in ego schemes and dreams and hopes and fears. She says, as our understanding of the deities and our sensitivity to their presence increases through meditation practice, the symbolism takes on ever deeper meaning. It becomes reality and opens up into magic, which could be called the practical application of symbolism. Here again, the distinguishing feature of tantric magic lies in dissolving the boundaries of ego and letting go into space. And with this, she says, ordinary power is based on passion and aggression, where tantric magic is based on transcending them. And the first step is to tame our mind. This is the letting go. The first step is to tame our mind, then develop the energy, confidence, and courage of a warrior, to be willing to go beyond limits and leap into the unknown. And she says this doesn't have to be a big deal. It could be as simple as making effort when we're tired or letting go of resentment. Or as Trungpa Rinpoche says, the threshold of magic is the point at which we choose between returning to the comfortable dim light of samsara or going toward the unfamiliar, awe-inspiring brilliance of awakening. This is in regard to the presentation of the peaceful deities and the bright, brilliant light, or the dim light that represents our, the connection to the six realms. So this is the threshold of magic, that point where we have a choice, where we can actually wake up. She talks about the importance of the guru at this point, that it's only the guru opens the door to the genuine magic of Vajrayana through adhisthana, which is a word that means blessing, basically, the blessing of the guru. That it's the guru who gives us direct experience of the true nature of mind, which can only be reached through self-surrender. Self-surrender, again, talking about the letting go, the dissolving of ego. That we have to give up ego by trusting in someone else. But when we're able to do that, then the phenomenal world becomes the source of inspiration instead of giving rise to identification and grasping. And she says, the more we open, the more magic is revealed, and we become one with the energies of the universe. So that relates that whole piece relates to the two types of symbolism, the iconography of the deities and the natural symbolism of the world around us. But altogether, what it basically relates to is waking up, being present, being unafraid, letting go, taming the mind. The last piece that I'm going to talk about is how Trungpa Rinpoche also called the Vidyadharas the holders of crazy wisdom, which he says refers to jnana, which he translates as knowledge, although other translators will translate jnana as wisdom. So anyway, and so that Vidyadhara could also be called wild knowledge, or crazy wisdom could also be called wild knowledge. He says, crazy wisdom has the penetrating intelligence of awareness as well as the transcendent, gone beyond quality of the perfection of wisdom. It's the primordial awakened form. It's the primordial awakened form from a tantric perspective, conveying a sense of ecstasy and intoxication, of being drunk with the nectar of knowledge and on fire with the bliss of wakefulness. It's this very quality of wildness and craziness that fuels the most intense energy of compassion, arousing the determination and confidence to do absolutely anything to remove suffering and wake up beings to the glory of their original state, helping us realize what we already are, but we don't see. And that Padmasambhava was manifested crazy wisdom in bringing Buddhism to Tibet. And as it says, he subdues what needs to be subdued, destroys what needs to be destroyed, and cares for whatever needs its care. And it's considered, so there's the wisdom aspect. The crazy, or seemingly crazy at least, is because it's free of any kind of conditioning, free of any kind of conventional concept, turns everything upside down. This is very much the experience of Trungpa Rinpoche, by the way. From a conventional point of view, we never know what to expect from the wild, raw energy of the awakened state, totally unfettered and unobstructed. And out of this comes spontaneous action that might be confusing, might seem immoral, outrageous, destructive, because it's based on a long-term view, she says, and it penetrates to the heart of whatever's needed. It's behavior that can be abrupt, totally direct, arising from mind immersed in emptiness and compassion, without strategies or worldly considerations of any kind. So this is crazy wisdom. It's the very direct experience of awakened mind. Crazy wisdom is fearless, uncompromising, and unhesitating. It clings to no self-image and has gone beyond all reference points, so it no longer cares about comparisons or judgments. It destroys our preconceptions and illusions about the spiritual path and sees through our self-deceptions. And she ends this section actually with a very good sentence, I think, in describing what it could be like to be with Trungpa Rinpoche and other teachers. It cuts away the ground from under our feet so that we have no choice but to dance in empty space. So all of that was to prepare us to hear about the next day, the next set of visions, the Bardo. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to John. And we'll hear about the seventh day.
Going back a little bit, His Holiness Karmapa, who died during Trungpa Rinpoche's lifetime, but he gave Trungpa Rinpoche the title Vidyadhara, holder of Vidya, which Trungpa Rinpoche used. He referred to himself as the Vidyadhara, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. I'm not sure if it was who it was. I think it was Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. Correct me if you remember this, Michael, who said that teachers like Trungpa Rinpoche come along every 500 years. Was that Dilgo Khyentse?
I believe it was. And I do remember, you're right, that the Karmapa named him the Vidyadhara, because when I first came to Boulder, he was titled the Vajracharya, which is the Vajra teacher, but then he became the Vidyadhara.
Then he became the Vidyadhara Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. And he really was extraordinary. Yeah. his communications with us were very magical and powerful, shocking often, unexpected, nothing that we might have preconceived. And it was always about waking us up. This chapter, everything that Michael's covered so far, is about waking up. Let's just take a moment. Take a good posture for a second. Bring your mind, your eyes are open. You're aware of your environment. There's just simple awareness, effortless awareness of this. Thoughts come and go. They're just chatter when they come, and then they go and they reveal this empty, open space, which encompasses anything we might see, hear, feel, smell, taste, touch, so forth. This is the real world, this world beyond thought. And when we get lost in our thoughts, we're thinking, oh, I should do this, oh, I didn't do that, oh, I'm a good person, oh, I'm a bad person. It's just a dream, a fiction that we perpetrate and which disappears moment by moment, revealing this. This is what's real. There is nothing more than this. We keep thinking, oh, this will lead to something. It doesn't. It's already led. It's led to this. We are being drawn back by these teachings, by these exhortations, to the world as it happens now, the only time it ever happens. All the rest of it is dream, the dream of thought. And what this whole chapter is about, the Bardo of Dharmata, is about the magic of this world beyond dream. Dream kills the magic. Dream solidifies things, turns them into empty ciphers, thoughts, turn things into a story, a novel you read 20 years ago, something like that. And then we come back and here it is, it's alive, just as it is. And we say, well, what does all this mean? It doesn't mean. It means exactly what it is. Nothing more, nothing less. And what it is magic. The magic of the phenomenal world, of all of us. And that is what the Bardo of Dharmata is about. It's about that magic. When a person dies, they become, at least momentarily, more open to this magic because their normal sense of self has disintegrated. And so here it is, just what it is, as it's happening. So all of the meaningful things of this world, which are the Vidyadharas and the Dakinis, the magical presences that only live in the moment, only now. They have no past, they have no future. They just arise and pass as we speak, as we live with our eyes open. And we're being exhorted to see this and to live in this world of magic. Now, at the same time, when you die, the Vidyadharas will appear to you, the holders of Vidya, because you didn't recognize the peaceful deities during the previous 6 days of death, which are figurative, they're not real days. They're just periods of seeming time, which is all time ever is anyhow. It's just what we seem to take it to be. The book says that this may happen, that the dead person won't recognize these deities because people are unfortunate enough to have no karmic connection with Dharma, many people, most people, either because they were born in uncivilized places where it is not taught, or because they had no interest in it or little opportunity to practice. So you see, when you practice meditation, you're not calm in your mind. You're coming back to this open, clear state now that is always here. Back from thoughts, back from attempts to do anything, back from ambition. Another situation that would cause people not to recognize is when they have let their samaya commitments degenerate. Samaya, if you remember, is the sacred promise made between guru and disciple on the tantric level that creates an inescapable bond between the teacher and the student. It's not something that can be undertaken lightly. You have to make a real relationship with a tantric teacher. A teacher like Trungpa Rinpoche, if you can find it, which you probably can't, but it's something close. Someone who opens the door into the world of reality, and you make this commitment to them. Not fulfilling this commitment, the samaya bonds, the bonds of speech, action, thought, all of this, which always is to come back to this real world. But not fulfilling this commitment means that one is not living up to one's potential for enlightenment. The closer one has come to the magic of Vajrayana, the more one hurts oneself by rejecting or abusing it. And therefore one inevitably becomes more and more confused and lost in samsara. We get lost in thought, in trying to figure it out. Any of that is a bad dream. Both classes of people, those who have had no contact with Dharma and those who have willfully abandoned it, and there are both, are in danger of being drawn downward toward the animal realm, which is dominated by ignorance and delusion. So now the path of the soft green light leading to that realm also appears along with the Vidyadharas and Dakinis. When we ignore, turn away from the awakened aspect of our minds, which has come to all of us in meditation practice, it's in the gaps. And when we turn away from it, we're in danger of being drawn down into the realms, especially the animal realm. And the text says, "O child of awakened family, listen without distraction." That's all of us. On the seventh day, the multicolored light of karmic imprints purified in space will shine. Karmic imprints. Then the Vidyadhara deities will come from the pure skyfarer's realm to invite you to awakening. In the center of a mandala enveloped with rainbow light, he who is called the fully matured Vidyadhara, holder of Vidya, right? The incomparable lotus lord of dance will appear. His body is radiant with the 5 colors, and he embraces the mother, the red Dakini. They dance with hook knives and skull cups full of blood, gesturing and gazing at the sky. This is here now, available to us now. in symbolic or perhaps even more form. And then he describes from the east, south, west, and north of the mandala come the Vidyadharas of those places. So from the east, for instance, he who is called the Vidyadhara established in stages will appear. He is white, smiling radiantly, and embracing the mother, the white Dakini. They dance with hook knives and skull cups full of blood, gesturing and gazing at the sky. They are alive. That's why they've got these skull cups full of blood. They're dancing and gesturing and gazing at the sky. And all of this is a description of how the world comes alive when we come present into it and give up looking for something else. And it's all the same from these different Vidyadharas. From the west of the mandala, I'm just skipping around, he who is called the Mahamudra Vidyadhara will appear because he's one with Mahamudra. He's one with complete understanding that this is the great symbol. We're in the middle of it. It's not going to be symbolic of something else. It is our lives. Our lives are so redolent with meaning, power, sensation. If only we can come present. He dances, he and his consorts dance with hook knives and skull cups full of blood, gesturing and gazing at the sky, and so forth. And then from the north of the mandala, he who is called the spontaneously existent Vidyadhara will appear. Green, his expression is both angry and smiling, and he embraces his mother, the green Dakini. They dance with hook knives and skull cups full of blood, gesturing and gazing at the sky. These are the five Vidyadharas. They appear before us because they are manifestations of our innate potential, calling upon us to recognize them and merge with them, to dance with, make love with, communicate with reality. Not imagination, not our conceptualizations, but with this real world which only arises now, wordlessly, in the present. The five Dakinis, too, are unnamed and identified only by their colors. As the feminine principle, they represent the openness and creativity of the awakened state. They're everywhere, these Dakinis. They are feminine power, they are creativity. We're living in the midst of them. The attainment of realization that we're describing here is always inseparable from the absence of ego. No ego. No I want, I know, I think, I hope, I fear. They are the boundless sky of inspiration in which the miraculous powers and magical activities of the holders of Vidya take place. In the center of the mandala is the fully matured Vidyadhara. Maturing refers to the ripening of the power of Adhisthana, blessing. That's the power that allows us to do all this, to see all this, to come back from neurosis, confusion, misperception. And this power of Adhisthana, blessing, corresponds to the first of the four levels known as the fruit of Mahayoga. And what he's talking about here now is the Nyingma path, which at the higher levels consists of three. The first is Mahayoga, great yoga. The second is called Anu Yoga, and the third is Ati Yoga. And we are dealing with all three here, especially Mahayoga and Ati Yoga. Ati, ultimate. It says, although the central Vidyadhara is described here as being of the 5 colors embodying all 5 families in the center of the mandala, remember, this is what we are living with this state of mind. He is usually depicted as, in paintings as red, as is his Dakini consort. The mandala of the Vidyadharas emanates from speech, so it is ruled by Amitabha. Amitabha is the Buddha of speech, or sometimes the Bodhisattva. The central Vidyadhara is also called the Lotus Lord of Dance, and they give the Sanskrit for it, Padmanarteshvara. This is a name sometimes given to Amitabha or Avalokiteshvara, expressing the essence of the Padma family's compassionate activity. Their dance is the play of appearance and emptiness. This is what we live in, this dance of appearance and emptiness. And we can't see it because we are looking for words to describe it and give it meaning. And this dance of appearance and emptiness is compared to acting a part in a drama or producing a magical illusion. Why? Because it has this quality of only living in the moment. And then we go with descriptions of the, in the east of the mandalas, the Vidyadhara established in stages, dancing with the white Dakini. He represents a combination of the other 4, etc. He's white, a transformation of Vairochana, and he belongs to the Buddha family. There are 10 stages of the Bodhisattva path, and they're extremely high levels of attainment, culminating in full and complete enlightenment as a Buddha on the 11th stage. These stages are the falling away of self-consciousness, of looking for meaning in concepts, which is not there. The concepts are only descriptors of meaning and everything else after the fact. They're sort of secondary thoughts, and once they're voiced, they're gone. So there are these 10 levels, each corresponding to a Vidyadhara. You can read them. I'm not going to really go spend much time with them. The Vidyadhara with power over life, Ratnasambhava, that is, he lives in the south. Ratna, has to do with the south, richness. He represents the 2nd Mahayoga level. Here it says the nadis and elements of the body have been completely transformed so that one has control over one's lifespan. That's wild. This power is the first of 10 that are attained at this stage. And then he gives the 10 powers. Power over length of life, power over rebirth, she does, for the sake of others, power over one's mind in entering meditation, and so forth. Ending with the power over Dharma itself as skill in teaching. That's the 10th power. We're all about helping others to come to this state. There's power over miracles in order to convert people, power over knowledge of all aspects of Dharma, so forth. The first one, the power of Vidyadhara with the power over life, he's a transformation of Ratnasambhava appearing in the south of the mandala with his partner, the yellow Dakini. The Ratna family, remember the 5 families, right? There's the central one, which is Buddha. To the east is Vajra, south is Ratna, west is Padma, north is Karma. The Ratna family in the south embodies all enlightened qualities and increases spiritual attainments and realization. This is the world that we are living in now, but we don't see it because we're too absorbed, too fascinated by meanings. Meditation that we practice every morning and every evening is all about letting that go and just relaxing into this. And then he goes on more about these different Vidyadharas, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. Really, they have to do with this fundamental transformation of us into enlightened beings, into beings that live here in the present. So in the north of the mandala, number 4, the spontaneously existent Vidyadhara with the green Dakini represents the 4th level, the attainment of enlightenment. And so it goes. The Vidyadharas and Dakinis can either be naked or wearing animal skin wraps around their waists, perhaps with very basic jewelry. Their simplicity and absence of ornaments point to the intuitive quality of direct recognition beyond the complexities of conceptual thought. So the point is of all of this is that we will experience this if we have the presence of mind. When we die, we will enter the bardo of Dharmata and see all of these deities. However, we can experience this in our lifetime. The magic and beauty and power of this world as it lives right now. I feel Trungpa Rinpoche was doing that with every gesture, every word. That's where he lived, was in this magic. In their left hands, they hold skull cups filled with blood. The skull cup represents the feminine principle of wisdom, containing the lifeblood of samsara. Transmuted into elixir, the wild knowledge or crazy wisdom that inspires them with compassionate energy. In their right hands, they each hold a hooked knife, representing the masculine principle of skillful means. With this knife, they dismember the corpse of ego. Now he's talking about the vision that one might see in the bardo when one dies, before one moves on into the bardo of becoming, of being reborn. He describes beyond the Vidyadharas, the holders of Vidya, countless crowds of Dakinis will appear. Dakinis of the 8 great charnel grounds, Dakinis of the 4 families, Dakinis of the 3 levels, Dakinis of the 10 directions, and so on. All the male and female protectors of Dharma, wearing the 6 bone ornaments, carrying drums, thigh bone trumpets, skull drums, banners made from the flayed skins of children, canopies and ribbons of human skin, and incense made from human flesh. This is all having to do with the fact that all of this is ultimately real, mundane, having to do with our birth as human beings. These deities appear in the sky before us, but they can also only do so because they are a part of our inherent nature. They are who we are. These Dakinis, warriors, servants, and protectors are all expressions of our speech and vital energy, our emotional and communicative nature. They are the essence of creative and destructive energy. They do not come to invite us politely, but with wild songs and dances. I'm going to just backtrack for a moment and point out to you that there are 3 levels of Dakini. What's being talked about here really is the ultimate level, the Dakini, the wisdom Dakinis that bring this to us, wild energy. Beneath that, there are the sky-going, sky-flying Dakinis, and they are not enlightened, but they represent wild, untrammeled energy. and they live in the sky, and they come down to earth, and they cause all kinds of mischief and calamity and unexpected things. And finally, there are the human Dakinis, and you may know some. These are women who represent the wild, fierce, beautiful, wise energy. They're not enlightened. I remember Duko Kensei's daughter, who was over 6 feet tall, beautiful, and she was considered a worldly Dakini. I can't remember her name. Do you remember her name, Michael? No? But everybody thought she was a worldly Dakini. She was fierce, just very impressive. I mean, he was huge, he was 6'6". Duko Kensei must have weighed way over 300 pounds. So he has this daughter who's over 6 feet tall and gorgeous. Warrior or hero is another general term for the deities in their passionate or wrathful manifestations, and is often used as the male counterpart of Dakini, although it has a feminine form as well, and in both forms also refers to human yogins and yoginis. These terms remind us that the spiritual path is a continual struggle against delusion and egoism, and that we need courage and energy to follow it. And that's what the Dakinis and the male warriors or heroes represent. And it's here now, if we want to live it that way. And if we don't, we will still be given a chance, depending on our level of meditation and realization, when we die. It says here, many of the Dharma protectors were originally non-Buddhist deities and local spirits who have been tamed and have vowed to help and protect the teaching and all who follow it. They represent those aspects of our nature that have been turned away from self-interest and toward truth and the welfare of others. They can sometimes be fierce and ruthless. They are our true conscience and will use any means necessary to keep us from going astray. All the things they carry, their musical instruments and the ornaments they wear, are related to the charnel ground, which is a very important concept in Vajrayana symbolism. Charnel, or cremation, are the grounds corresponding to cemeteries in the Western world, although they are much more disturbing and frightening. Charnel grounds, it used to be, I don't even know if there are any, I think there are some still in India. And when a person dies, if their relatives who love them don't have the means, the financial means, to provide, an elaborate and beautiful funeral and burial, if they're poor, they'll just take the body and cart it out to this charnel ground where other bodies have been dumped, and they'll dump it there. And animals prowl these grounds and eat the bodies. Fierce? You betcha. Yogis, determined yogis, will go and sit and meditate and live in the charnel grounds, because the direct encounter with death is a huge inspiration to tread the path, terrifying as it may be. So these are the charnel grounds. Even more terrifying is the presence of demons who inhabit corpses and ghosts who continue to haunt the remains of their former bodies until they are released by ritual offerings. These are the places that yogins and yoginis chose to live in for many reasons. The reasons: they would be isolated and completely abandoned at night, so no one would disturb them. Boy, can you imagine being at night in a charnel ground? Woof! By living there, they would come face to face with the reality of death and overcome many obstacles to spiritual progress, such as attachment, fear, disgust, pride in the superiority of caste. They might meet powerful otherworldly beings or great teachers who have come there for the same reasons, and especially the Dakinis who love to dwell in the charnel ground. Yeah, there's still charnel grounds in India. I remember when I went there in the mid-2000s, and outside of Benares there was a charnel ground, which I didn't go to. Practitioners, she says, do not literally have to go to charnel grounds for their qualities. The qualities of the charnel grounds can be found everywhere once we become attuned to the symbolism. The dismembered corpse, the flesh and blood, the skulls, bones, internal organs, and flayed skin represent everything we would rather avoid. They reveal the areas of disgust and revolt us, and the secret sensitive parts that we do not want to look at or expose. Here we find everything that we reject as having nothing to do with our spiritual nature, yet it is the source of our energy and must be recognized and accepted. It produces an acute awareness of impermanence, of the continual presence of death in life, and how worldly beauty, pleasure, and perfection can turn into their opposites at any moment. We can live in this world of deity, of Dakini, of the charnel ground now. It's possible here and now. Harder, but possible. There are charnel grounds here in America. Think of the ghettos and their tremendous suffering and more. The world is a charnel ground, it says, where everything is continually dying and being reborn. It is the ground of transmutation. It can become a state of mind, the charnel ground, where we can easily become unbalanced. In our state of fear and confusion, we're not sure whether the voices we hear are helpful or harmful, and we do not know whether to trust them or not. So the only solution is to relax, to let go into the dance of life and death that is taking place all the time. The brilliant light of knowledge shines from the hearts of the Vidyadharas, inviting us to merge with them. We're being invited right now. We're asleep in the conventional world of our concepts, and we are being invited into this intense world now. It says the brilliant light of knowledge shines from the hearts of the Vidyadharas, inviting us to merge with them, while simultaneously the dull light of ignorance tempts us to retreat into instinctive automatic behavior, to turn our backs, curl up, and go to sleep. And then he quotes a text. I'm just going to read this because it's addressed to all of us. O child of awakened family, that's us. Our family's been awakened. We've got a long way to go, but we're at the beginning. A five-colored light will shine from the hearts of the five Vidyadhara lords. It is the light of your karmic imprints, purified in space, the knowledge with which you were born. Like strands of color wound together, flashing and shimmering, side by side, clear and bright, brilliant and terrifying. It will penetrate straight into your heart. This is a death, so that your eyes cannot bear it. At the same time, this is a death. A soft green light from the animal realm will also shine together with the light of knowledge. Then, under the influence of karmic imprints that lead you astray, you will become afraid of the five-colored light and run away from it, and instead you will be attracted to the soft light of the animals. So do not fear the bright radiant light of the five colors when it appears. Do not be afraid, but recognize it as knowledge, and each one of us will have this opportunity. From within the light, the entire spontaneous sound of the Dharma will roar like 1,000 thunderclaps. It rolls and thunders and reverberates with war cries and the penetrating sound of wrathful mantras. Do not be terrified. Do not run away. Do not fear. Recognize it as the spontaneously manifesting creative energy of your awareness. Do not be attracted to the soft green light of the animals. Do not desire it. If you are attracted to it, you will fall into the animal realm of ignorance and experience the extreme suffering of stupidity, dumbness, and slavery from which there is no escape. And this is interesting. This is the first time I saw that there is no escape. Other places say that you inevitably will escape sooner or later. Not sure which is correct. Feel devotion toward the clear, bright light of the 5 colors and concentrate one pointedly on the blessed Vidyadharas, the divine teachers, thinking. And this is like concentrating on someone like Trungpa Rinpoche and all the people who he taught. These Vidyadharas, warriors, and Dakinis have come to invite me to the pure skyfarer's realm. You give thought to sentient beings like me who have never developed goodness and knowledge. You take pity on those like me who have not been caught, even though until today all the deities of the 5 families of Buddhas of past, present, and future have reached out with their rays of compassion. Now all you Vidyadharas, do not let me go any lower down than this, but grasp hold of me with your hooks of compassion and pull me up quickly to the skyfarer's realm. With intense one-pointed concentration, say this aspiration prayer. And if you think all this is too far out, think about your own death and how far out that is. That we are going to die. This body is going to fall apart, rot away. And what will happen to us? And here's the aspiration prayer. May the divine Vidyadharas think of me, and with their great love lead me on the path. When through intense karmic imprints I wander in samsara, on the luminous path of the knowledge with which I was born, may the Vidyadhara warriors go before me, and the great Mother Dakinis behind me. Deliver me from the Bardo's dangerous passage, and bring me to the pure skyfarer's realm. We're just going to finish in fine time. The light of the 5 colors combined is the light of our purified, fundamental karmic imprints of tendencies, formed by the effect of past actions, which remain in the source consciousness, our minds, like traces of perfume impregnating the consciousness. These imprints, purified fundamental karmic imprints, form tendency patterns that predispose us toward a particular environment and particular physical and mental characteristics and behavior. It can also be interpreted as the knowledge born together with ignorance or simultaneously born knowledge. And then here I just highlighted this whole closing. I highlighted it in red and made it bold, so I guess that means I thought it was pretty important. Here we go. The awakened state and the confused state are always present simultaneously within us. How about that? We continually give birth to them together. But although this knowledge of our true nature always exists within us, we have gone on drifting deeper and deeper into ignorance during life after life and from moment to moment. In order for our innate knowledge to manifest spontaneously, we need to prepare conditions for it, to develop wisdom and compassion, and open up gaps in the thick fog of confusion. This is what we need to be doing. This is the whole reason for the practice of Dharma. It's why we come every night and every morning to the meditations. This is what is meant by the vision of the Vidyadharas, the divine teachers, and the dakinis, the principle of inspiration. That's what the dakinis are, the energy and principle. In the Bardo state after death, which comes to soul, they appear in the most vivid and compelling form, yet they are all around us here and now. We continually have the choice of falling asleep into ignorance or awakening into knowledge, of opening up to the brilliant light or following the path of the dim light. That's our constant choice. In Trungpa Rinpoche's words, quote, "This symbolism from the Tibetan Book of the Dead is very profound for our actual everyday life situation. It does not have to refer only to after-death experience. That's the key. Perhaps the after-death experience just typifies the kind of situation in which choices are most enlightening or stimulating and most immediate." We could have a brief conversation and then discuss this more tomorrow. This is so profound, so important. So important because we're all heading right down this path, like it or not, willy-nilly. Hi, Mark.
Hi, John.
You're late.
What time is it?
6:54. We're about to end. Sorry.
I'm confused. What time is the meditation one?
The meditation starts at 5, ends at 5:30. We take a 5-minute break, and then we go into class starting at 5:35 to 7. That's mountain time here. Now,
Am I interrupting? I'm
Huh?
sorry to interrupt. I apologize if I'm interrupting.
No, it's okay. You've been trying to come. You've got to get the times right. Meanwhile, you can listen to the recording of this.
Okay. I thought that the meditation started at 10 of 7.
10 of 7 East Coast time.
Oh, okay. So it starts at 10 of 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
But I mean, don't you think this is an amazing stuff that we've been given? It's describing now, and it's describing death. How extraordinary is this? We're being invited to wake up now to the Dakini energies of life, the Devas, the Vidyadharas. And what's helped me to understand this more is thinking about Trungpa Rinpoche and what an extraordinary human being he was and how he lived in this space. Don't you think, Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked her description of crazy wisdom. It really reminded me of what it could be like to be around him.
Oh. Oh.
You just never, there's always something, you never knew what to expect, I guess.
When I think about how I so profoundly I failed personally so many times. But remember, we asked him, "How will we find you in the Bardo when we die?" And he said, "You won't. I'll find you." And I got my fingers crossed. That's all of us. Yes, Karen Sue.
So, John, didn't your failure, or I would say for me, my failures bring me closer to my my true self? So, do you think those failures did something for you?
Well, sure. But given the choice, I wouldn't do them.
Wouldn't do the failures?
No.
Well, but isn't that where we are at the moment? And just as Michael was saying earlier, sometimes we are presented with something and we don't get it. And then
I could tell you things that happened.
later we would get it.
Well, later we get it, but he's no longer here to receive it.
But his teachings are, and you are, and Michael is, and so I'll only speak for myself, can so gratefully benefit from that you experienced him in his person, and I don't know, there's such a vivid quality of, I don't know if this is right. Right isn't the right word, but there's such a vivid quality of who I think he was in his teachings. I feel isn't the right word, but I feel that when I'm studying his teachings. And then there are times, just as Michael was saying, I just sit back and go, huh? And then one of you will repeat it again, and I'll go, oh. And, I think I see a glimmer. And I find that so fascinating. And I've never felt 100% frustrated. And I think that has to do with the spirit of Chogyam Trungpa.
Well, I don't think he'd ever give up on anybody.
No, but I mean, in terms of my understanding his teachings. So anyway, I just thought,
That's wonderful.
you know me, I like to make lemonade out of lemons. So
maybe we'll all meet him together in the bar.
yes, no, maybe.
Vicky has her hand up.
John, do not, when you said failure, something popped into my head. One of Pema Chodron's lectures or books is called Fail, Fail Again, Fail Better. I don't think we should be sorry for failures. There are teachers. And I've got to reread that when she said that, but no, that's part of the process. And it's the biggest teacher. I had my ass kicked in the last 2 years. A friendship fell apart because of my kleshas, and it's because I examined what I did to bring it around, and I'll never do that again. It was a terrible failure in some ways, but for me. But looking back, it's not that big a failure because I got a little more awake.
And you're here.
Oh yeah, thank you so much.
It was such an act of courage on everybody's part to come here. And of sanity.
Sure.
Intelligence and sanity. Michael, you said?
I would agree. It's also 9 o'clock. Actually, it's a little after 9, so we should close with the dedication of merit.
Okay.
We'll come tomorrow night. We have discussion group. So we'll close by dedicating the merit generated through our study and practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great east, may the lotus garden of the Rigdon's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, John.
Dream well. Good night.
If anyone wants to discuss this tomorrow, and also Michael and I are available. Volunteering you, Michael.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night, everyone. Bye. That was great.
Hold on.